Hi, this is the first of a multi-part series on how to drift our tailwater when it's high. And this is a very big topic, so I'll try to net it out as much as possible. And please, on some of the slides, go ahead and pause them and read through them yourself to make sure you get the details. First and foremost, be safe. Also, if you're experienced with a boat in lakes, that's a good thing, but some of the skills don't necessarily transfer over to high water or rushing water. It will also be helpful if you're an experienced kayaker or canoe person, because many of those skills do apply. Plan ahead and study the water you're going to drift ahead of time and understand the obstacles and the challenges with that stretch of water. And I've included some numbers for you to be sure and check the water level, because water level is king on this tailwater and really can affect how difficult it is to float. Many of these items have to do with safety items on the boat, and be sure you know how to use them and when to use them and what you're going to do if the boat tumps over or if you end up in a stretch of water that's too difficult. Regardless what the situation is, think ahead of time about how you're going to handle those situations and be prepared to do so. Finally, on this section, be sure you're always wearing your life jacket, and I also encourage you to buy and keep on your person an emergency beacon that you can attach to yourself. I have one, and there have been times when I've actually had to use it. I created this little tool for you guys to take some of the characteristics that I use to anticipate how good the fishing is going to be. And as you can tell, most of it has to do with the condition of the water. And on tailwater, that's what it's all about. The clarity of the water, the speed of the water can really affect how well the fish are going to bite and what your tactics are going to be. Hopefully this helps you. I've configured my boat to be optimized for tailwater and for fast water. And it's pretty basic. Consider the items that I list here as pretty much minimum, and they'll also help you have a good day out on the water and be safe and have enough power to stay out of trouble. Reliable, fast starting motor is critical for tailwater. You want an electric start motor because if it fails during a tough situation, you've got to count on that thing starting. In fact, the search and rescue folks say many of the people that get hurt or injured on the tailwater are related to motors that failed and then the boat crashed and sunk. Controlling the boat in fast water is in itself a class. In fact, I'm going to have a whole video on just this topic that shows examples that are live while I'm on the river when it's high, and showing different techniques and showing you how to perform the above or on this slide. You know, basically I use the motor to control and ferry sideways going up the river. And also I use the motor sometimes when going down the river as well to ferry, particularly in situations where my oars aren't appropriate. With regard to my oars, I try to use those the most in terms of ferrying and controlling my boat left and right and keeping it steady and pointing downstream. And then you can use some additional tools like socks, or I don't know, call it anchor socks, that you can throw out and have it keep your boat floated or aimed downstream and slowing down. Some people use chains. I don't recommend them because they can get hung in the rock and cause your boat to sink. So those are a few ideas for you, and please practice them and be comfortable before you get on fast water. So practice in wide water that doesn't have obstacles first. I have a whole nother video just on the gear if you want to go into more detail, but basically I use a 9-foot rod. Also, I have a longer rod for Euro nymphing, and I have a streamer rod that I keep rigged up separately, which is helpful. In fact, it's helpful to have all three rigged up separately because things happen fast when you're out on the river. You'll probably use 3 different kinds of cast. I generally cast at 2 o'clock while I'm drifting down the stream, and let the indicator drift along with me. And I also use the indicator when I'm rowing to indicate whether I need to paddle downstream, upstream. The whole idea is to get a good drift. And you'll also find that techniques of roll cast is good. And when you get to the end of the drift, I'll just lift the line up and then flick it back upstream. Now let's look at a few ways or examples of how to rig your line and your rod. First is the streamer style, and actually you're probably pretty familiar with this one, where you tie your fly at the end. You'll put a weight about 14 inches above your fly, which is typically going to be a streamer or a woolly bugger or a jig, and you're going to cast that out and across and then let it swing down, or like we talked about before, float along with the boat and the current. Next is a drop shot style, and basically what you do with this is you have a weight at the end of the line, and then you tie your fly or jig or woolly bugger above it about 14 inches, and then the whole idea is to let it sink down to the bottom and bounce along the bottom. And what you'll do is kind of jig it along the way and have it bounce on the bottom. So it takes quite a bit of weight. This gets your fly down into the zone where the fish are at the bottom, especially in pockets. And this is a very common way to catch fish in high water. Finally, the last method we're going to talk about is Euro nymphing. You do this with a longer rod, and this is kind of like drop shotting on steroids, because you have, instead of one fly or jig, you're going to have more than that, typically 3 or 4, and they'll either be tied to loops directly to the Euro nymphing leader, or you can have like 3 or 4 inch droppers hanging off the line, and with those flies on there. The whole idea of more flies around the fish and more ways for the fish to see your line as you're keeping it down low and bouncing off the bottom. Now let's talk about a few spots that you can go drift. 3 of them would be good ones for beginners, and I've got one that on the North Fork that you need to stay away from. First is upstream from the swinging bridge in the straight section that I don't know, it starts out probably about 3/4 to a mile above the bridge. And what you'll do is you'll want to drift the channel using the techniques I talked about earlier. And if you want to fish for a brown, then cast toward the side and with the streamer or woolly bugger. And it's a good place. There are lots of fish that hold through there, and it's a pretty safe place to fish. Turn around at the stop sign, go back up, and then float back down. This is an example of a spot you need to avoid. On the North Fork, fish the bottom of the river or up in front of Quarry Park, stay away from the middle, and this would be the middle. And if you do catch yourself there, be sure and avoid those rapids that I have circled in red, and go along the right side of the island if you're floating down. I'm highlighting this during the high water as a place not to fish in high water, but when the water is lower, this area is an excellent place to fish. The Rim Shoals access on the White River is legendary. It's a great place to fish on the shoals, but during the high water, particularly if you're new, you'll want to stay away from the shoal and fish above the shoals. So put in at the boat launch, go up to the next set of riffles, and then turn around and float either down the right side or the left side. There are two channels, and you can fish the channel or fish the sides for browns. And then when you get to the stop sign, turn around and then motor back up. This is a productive area and you should do well. This is my final example for this video, and this is the lower North Fork. So you'll put in just below the confluence there of the North Fork and the White. You'll motor up to the first boat docks on the other side of the bridge, and then you'll float down through the channel. And I've got the areas circled are areas where fish typically hold, and you can fish deep to catch them. Now, you can go up above the boat docks, but I don't recommend it until you're more experienced. But that's one of my favorite places to fish. There's lots of fish there when the water's high and when the water's low. So you ought to check it out. Here's an example of fishing just below the bridge. I'm fishing with the dropper, ruby midge, and a hollow point tactical jig, and I was letting it drift and it hit it, and so this is a good example of what you'll see there in that particular area. The fishing is really good, usually in the afternoons. Let's recap some high points. Again, stay safe, avoid obstacles, avoid riffles, especially when you're new. Practice in wide spots so you can learn the difference between particularly rowing a boat, a large boat in fast water versus a canoe or something else. And be prepared. Have everything you need ahead of time, have it organized well, and know what you're going to do if you have a problem. And always let someone know when you're going to be out there and when you're going to be home. There's a follow-on video that I'm going to release here soon that will be out on the river and demonstrate the items that I covered in this video. So hopefully some of the things will come to life if you see me actually performing them out on the river. I hope you found this video informative, and better yet, I hope you take things you've learned from it and do well out on the river, have fun, and be safe. Take care.